Hi, I'm Dr. Elliot Adam from ElliotOracle.com. I'm also the author of Fearless Tarot, How to Give a Positive Reading in Any Situation, which is due out from Llewellyn Books this October. If you like my approach to tarot, you are going to love this book. It's time for this week's Oracle Reveal. So earlier today on Instagram, I placed up a photo of 3 different animals. And the animals were the armadillo, the giraffe, and the turtle. And I asked you to use your intuition and just ask yourself which animal is calling to you, because that animal has an important message for you. For those of you who picked the armadillo, the card says, set healthy boundaries. And this is so important when we're attracted to armadillo. It's important to know where the line is between where another ends and where you begin. It's also important to maintain your space and your respect for yourself and your own environment, and to really be selective with what you're allowing in. It's important to ask for opinions from other people or get other people's take, but in the end, if it's not respectful or if it doesn't feel like it's gelling with what you're doing, it's important to maintain that boundary and keep your space clear. For those of you who picked the armadillo, the first card is what it's best to place your focus on this next week. And we got the 10 of Cups. And you can see here there's this little house in the distance on the card, and the family has left the house. They were in the house so long, so much, squabbling, dealing with daily life, that they weren't really able to see the house. And so they're gaining perspective. They're going up the road, and they're looking back on their life from a distance. And you can see this rainbows appeared in the sky, and the kids are dancing, and there's just this really joyous imagery of this card. This card is telling you to get out of your head, get out of your habits, get out of your ruts and your routines, and also take that metaphorical walk up the road so you can see your own life in perspective at this time. If you truly look at your life for what it is, something magical will begin to happen. You'll start to feel grateful for it, or you'll start to see things that are actually much better than you thought. The second card is advice from your inner wisdom for the people who picked Armadillo, and we got the Moon card. And the moon represents those unconscious forces that are beneath the surface of all of us, that are shaping our perceptions of things. You can see that there's a domesticated dog and there's a wolf on the card, and they're both howling at the moon. And what this symbolizes is the wolf is your instinctual self, and the domesticated dog is your well-manicured public self. And both are affected by what's going on under the surface. And so the advice from your inner wisdom for Armadillo is to go within and really see what's truly motivating you from the inside. The moon is also a card of intuition and instinct. So if you're getting hunches, or you're feeling intuitive, or you're feeling like something's trying to lead you in a certain direction, listen to it. The moon is Latin in Latin, the moon is luna, where we get our word in English, lunatic, from. So when you ignore your inner instincts, they can actually start to make you feel crazy or like things are off. So the moon is just saying pay attention to those deeper instincts at this time. And the mythic archetype that is going to be helping the Armadillo people is actually Hades. He's the god of the dead. He represents change and transformation. But he also has something in common with that moon card, because Hades and his archetype will always draw you inward into your inner underworld. The underworld is where fears and shadows dwell. Sometimes these things need to be faced periodically and dealt with in order to be processed and released. But the underworld is also the place of hidden treasure. It's where the gemstones are created. And so this symbolizes that sometimes we have to go within and face the dark places within ourselves to fully get the treasure, to fully get the full actualization of who we really are. So that is the message for the Armadillo people. For those of you who picked Giraffe, it says see the big picture, another image of perspective. And so if you're too much in the mud, it might be time to stretch your neck up above the trees and look at things from a higher vantage point. The first card for Giraffe is where it's best to place your focus. And here we got the Nine of Swords, which is all about perspective. The Nine of Swords has been called the worst card of the deck, not because it says something bad is going to happen to you, but instead because of how you're projecting your situation and how you're viewing it based on your own experience, based on your mind. The Nine of Swords isn't sugar-coated to say everything's wonderful, but what it does indicate is that although something is challenging or dark or difficult, it doesn't mean that you need to project that on every aspect of your life. Here you see this person who's having insomnia. He's not able to sleep. He's forgetting about his vitality, his life. He's got that blanket that's protecting him, covered with roses, which still represents his life as vital, but he's trapped in his head. He's only seen the negative. And this card tells you that it's important for you to snap out of it once in a while, to really look at your life as still being wide open, and to get some distance and perspective from a current problem that you're facing in order to see that there still is hope. There's always a way forward, and you always get to choose your response to whatever challenge you're facing. The second card is advice from your inner wisdom, and here's our symbol for victory, the Chariot. This card is seen to be strong. And when I see these two cards contrasting each other, they're basically telling you that you're getting a choice this next week, where you can show up as fearful and afraid and nervous, or you can show up as courageous and to confront things and to trust where the mystery is leading you. The charioteer's chariot is being drawn by two sphinxes, and they represent the great mystery, and this means he doesn't know what's ahead, but he's being confident and he's choosing his courage over his fear, and in that way he's already won. And then finally we got the mythic archetype that will be helping the people who picked Giraffe, and we got the Ore. These are the goddesses of the hours. They're similar to the seasons. And what this can indicate is that everything has its time. Sometimes something painful has to have its time, and then sometimes something more victorious also will get its due. And this card is telling you that all things are cyclical. This is also represented not just by the roses on the card of the Nine of Swords, but also look at those astrological symbols that are woven onto the blanket that's protecting him. This is saying that it's important to get that bigger perspective, to look at things from that distance, and to realize that everything will have its cycle and everything will have its time. And then finally, we got the people who picked the Turtle Spirit, and it says, slow and steady wins the race. So if you are thinking of doing a project or you're involved in something, this just tells you to keep plugging away at it, slowly, steadily, keep doing the work. And if you do, you're going to arrive at your destination. The first card for Turtle is where it's best for them to place their focus, and it's on the Lover's card. The Lover's card can indeed mean love. It can mean relationships and opening your heart at this time. But for me, it's also a card of collaboration and also a card of forming partnerships that are helpful. The Lover's card reminds us that we don't really get anywhere in this life alone. And in fact, none of us is created by one sole parent. In fact, it's always coming from a union. And so what this can indicate is that there are going to be some things that need to be reconciled, some opposites that need to be put together and to be synthesized. That's the word I'm looking for. But also the Lover's card can indicate that you need that higher perspective of your higher self at this time. The angel on the Lovers is looking down at the Lovers, and they're naked, meaning they're bearing it all, they have nothing to hide, and he's non-judgmental, he's blessing them. And this could just indicate that it's important for you to show your authentic heart and not feel like you need to judge yourself or keep yourself back or keep yourself clothed in something that's an artifice. Advice from your inner wisdom for the Turtle people is the Four of Pentacles. And this is a card that warns against not being open. You see this figure, he's clutching to these coins, he's clutching to this thing that he believes is going to make him secure. And when you look closely at his face, it's actually making him miserable. So when this card comes up to be advice from your inner wisdom, it's asking you to assess in your life what you're hanging on to right now that is sort of like, it's like you want to think it's bringing you security, but it's actually making you miserable. And it's instead time to release that. Also with that Lover's image, this is a time to allow love to be the answer, or to open your heart, or to really share yourself in some way. And it's also a time to ask for help or collaborate. The Four of Pentacles always tells you you're going to be secure, but you have to really take an inventory of what's useful to you at this time and what isn't. And then finally, we have the mythic archetype that will be helping the people who picked Turtle, and you got Cerberus. He's the dog that guards the underworld. So again, we're getting that underworld symbolism this week for a couple of the animals, and that's saying that there's deep treasure to be gained by looking within. Look within with non-judgment. Don't hang on to the things that are actually feeding your insecurity, and be brave enough and courageous enough to let them go. Cerberus can be tamed, but you have to face him with a willing heart. So that is this week's Oracle Reveal. I do hope you all enjoyed it, and if you did, you can always schedule a personal session with me at elliotoracle.com. Otherwise, I hope you all stay safe and happy and healthy, and do take care. I will see you next week.